Erin, Neill, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Joey?
Erin, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I want to know this before we really get into anything too serious. Is there a lost form of excitement you sometimes long for?
I don't think so.
No, nothing that you can't recapture just of the youth that the world is just you're maybe jaded. You're just always happy and excited.
I think there's something new to be excited about every day.
Well, that's probably something positive people have, and maybe I should look into that. It's maybe more of an inward question. For me, Aaron, I was going with like the last day of school. Like that's something that I can't ever really experience again. There's nothing that quite captures that excitement of not having to do something for an extended period of time. But I wanted to move that over to the world of insurance and sort of talk about maybe your career and how you viewed it and things that you were maybe once excited about that have since lost its luster, if you will, and maybe I don't know for whatever reason. Like, what is something that you've sort of kind of come and gone on in the business that you maybe have forgotten about over the years?
Well, I fell into the insurance industry quite by accident. So it wasn't like I was, super gung ho, ready to go out and be an insurance agent and conquer the insurance world. I got a job at an insurance office in college. Wasn't really sure what insurance really even was. Fell in love with the industry, and kind of the rest is history, as they say. So, again, I guess back to that positivity, I think there's always something new and exciting to be found in insurance. I do feel it's a blessing in a lot of ways because it does change every single day. Whether people agree with that or not, it really does. And especially right now with technology and the space, there's something new every single day. So for me, I think my excitement has more shifted to that technology aspect and learning how to better serve our customers through technology, to provide them with a better experience than maybe originally when I was just learning, everything there was about auto and home and different kinds of products. Now it's more based on how I can provide a better service, but I still get excited about it.
Well, so there's definitely a lot to dive into. I want to get back to the technology, but first I have to kind of understand a little bit more of, did you realize that you were maybe this constant optimist with this untapped positivity? Is there something that you do that you maybe could share with the rest of us that maybe aren't as inclined?
Well, it's the morning, so I'm always start the day pretty positive.
All right.
My first phone call could change the outlook for the day, but I do try to start each day as positive. It's a new day. There is a lot on my plate, but what can I tackle first? Eat the frog, as they say. But I have bad days too. I mean, there's days where I'm ready to burn down the ship and walk away, like that little girl in that meme, and the house is on fire behind her. I don't know. I really do love insurance, and I don't know what keeps me positive about it, but again, there are bad days. There's bad days in every industry, but I really do enjoy it.
I don't know why I'm gonna ask this question, but I'm gonna go for it anyways. Have you ever envisioned like a movie scene that would encapsulate the "I'm gonna walk away today"? So I'm thinking like the Dark Knight Joker, sort of the hospital blowing it up sort of thing. Is that your style, or would you sort of do the gasoline with the match? And I don't know. I feel like that's how I would maybe picture it. Like, what kind of movie scene would I want to? I don't know why that's it. That's not even a question, Aaron. But if you have something, I'd be curious to know.
No, I don't have a movie scene. I think the closest is that meme where that little girl's like smiling ear to ear and the house is like in the background just burning down.
Fair enough. Um, I want to get back to the technology. I think the interesting thing that I would like to know is at what point, because like you said, when you're first in the business, it's like, what is all of this? And this being insurance. And then you finally feel like, okay, I understand this. And at what point did you maybe feel comfortable enough in your just industry knowledge to where you could focus on other things that couldn't even make it into your sort of atmosphere at that time?
Well, when I started at a captive, right? A captive agency. So I worked there for 9.5 years and I pretty much had all of that down. And I think that was part of the reason why I was ready to make a change. It was getting a little bit boring. Plus, working for someone else that I don't know how to word this right. It wasn't growth oriented, so to speak. They didn't really want to spend a lot of money on marketing. They relied on the carrier to do all their marketing for them. They weren't really open to new ideas. I just kind of felt stuck because will say if I wasn't in the insurance industry, I think I would probably be in the marketing industry. I really do enjoy that aspect of growing an agency. And so at that point in my life, I just felt really stuck. Like I couldn't practice all this marketing that I wanted to do, but I really knew everything or felt like I knew everything about that carrier and their products, and there wasn't a lot more growth there. So then when I became independent, I think, and started my own agency from scratch, I think most people that come from the captive world and do that, like we're completely overwhelmed with we've got so many choices. We feel like we have all the options. We need to get access to every carrier we can get our hands on, got to learn everything about every carrier. So I think it was probably around year 4 or 5 of being an independent that I was like, okay, hold up. I've got enough carriers. What carriers can I take off of the plate that aren't really serving me well? What can I do to make this a better experience for my customer and just kind of move forward from there. So it's probably around year 4 or 5.
So I would imagine there's a couple things in there that I think might be interesting. And the one is, one, maybe what specific technologies did you go after? But even maybe before that, what areas of that experience, I guess, have you seen? I guess you've probably had some time to sort of gauge the results. Like what has moved the needle so far? And then maybe what technology have you sort of introduced to help that along?
I kind of refer to years 1 through 4 or 5 as like the years I was running around with like a chicken with my head cut off because I felt like I had to have all the carriers. I wanted to write every piece of business that came into the agency. If I couldn't write something, I couldn't figure out why. I didn't really have an aspect that there was even any other technology out there. One of the things I knew that I wanted was a drip marketing campaign, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But years 4 through 5, it was really just a lot of overwhelmingness for me, kind of like Mike Stromso uses a lot, like the fire hose analogy. That's what it was like going from captive to independent. Like you're just getting sprayed in the face with a fire hose and trying to figure it all out. The first thing I really did is I stopped really taking on any new carriers unless they were somebody that had a home and an auto product, they were a solid carrier, somebody that had been around for a long time. I really kind of turned off all of the new startup carriers because I noticed that this new carrier would come into the market, especially I'm in Texas, which is a really hard market most of the time anyway. And then right now it's exceptionally hard. That was helpful for me because I would end up with a small book of business with a one-off carrier, and then they would decide to pull out of Texas. And then I would be sitting here trying to handle non-renewal, still write new business. I would always lose, at least a third of the book because I couldn't move it over to somewhere else. So that I realized that was a big time waste. Another thing around that year 4.5 or 5, I realized I didn't have to write every customer. I didn't need to write every piece of business that called me. Some of it just wasn't a good fit for us. And so I had to define what our standards were going to be as an agency, what our ideal client was going to look like, and what we really wanted to focus on writing and try to stick to just that. And then as far as the first piece of marketing or technology that I wanted to implement was I really wanted a drip marketing campaign, and I really wanted it to focus on new sales because I felt like one thing that I wasn't great at and I knew my team wasn't really good at was following up on the sales process. I thought if I could automate that, that would be really easy. And so I went through a whole series of technologies over the next probably 4 years, 5 years until Agency Zoom came along. And I'm not going to go into all of that. I think most agents now know how robust that system is. And there's some other ones like it, but it integrates with the management system I use. And so I really like it. But that was probably the one piece of technology I searched for the longest before I found one that really was slick and worked well.
It's hard to underestimate, like you said, that ability to make sure that that follow-up is happening consistently all the time. What maybe, I guess, pressures did that take off and allow you to open up to, because once you, like you said, like that, you knew that was happening all the time. Was there anything that you were able to sort of shift your focus to then maybe, again, create even a better experience as well?
Well, I think one, having the automation behind the follow-up in that sales process was key. Our close ratio, even though I didn't have an accurate way to measure close ratio before, instantly went up. We were closing more sales once we started doing that. And then it took time off of me because I wasn't shuffling through, 10 or 20 pieces of paper to figure out who I needed to follow up with that day. When it's, the time for you to follow up, that software actually sets a reminder on your calendar to call that person that day with their phone number. So it just eliminated a lot of, oh, I've got to do this today, do that today. Well, now it's on a task list and you just check, check, check. all the way down. So
I want to stay on sort of the marketing thread. As you said, maybe that's where you would have ended up if the cards fell differently. You'd also mentioned like you weren't able to do things at a captive agency that you can do now. Like, I guess maybe paint a picture as to like some of the limitations that you struggled with and how maybe simple and maybe silly they would have been to not be able to do them, and then maybe what other things you've been able to do now, sort of in your time of independence, if you will.
So I left the captive agency in 2009. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was just as simple as joining a local chamber of commerce, joining a networking group. My agent was just like, "Oh, I was in the chamber 15 years ago when I started the agency and I got nothing out of it. I'm not going to spend the money on that." Okay. Well, what about a networking group? I don't know. I've never done a networking group. How much does it cost? I can't afford to have you out of the office. I don't want you. And I'm like, okay. Well, what about some advertising? Like, what about, the newspaper? Oh, the newspaper's dead. People don't put ads in the newspaper anymore. Okay. Well, what are some things that people look at? What about a Facebook page? Facebook was brand new, 2009, just getting out there. No, we're going to get sued. We'll have an E&O. You can't have a Facebook page. All right. What about a branded website? No, captive carrier's not going to let us do a branded website. Okay, so there's just like literally nothing I could do. Not a single idea I had was going to work. So I just really had to sit in the office and answer the phone all day and hoped that our parent company was doing enough marketing to keep our phones ringing.
But you got to make that list of 100 family and friends. That's the big.
Yeah, but after 9 years, I'd exhausted that list.
Yeah. Goes quick. Yeah, I mean that's definitely interesting. And now, fast forward to sort of where you're at today. Like, I mean that all sounds, like you said, a little silly now. What are some of the things that are on the forefront of your mind? Like where are you looking to push? Like what you can do? Like what are the ideas that are sort of just out of reach for you right now that you're trying to get?
So one of the ideas I've been working on for the last year. So this is something I had you probably know, I had two agency locations for 10 years, and they were about 15 miles apart. The pandemic happened. We were closed. So my locations, even though they're only 15 miles apart, they were in two different counties. So one of them was in a very strict county where the pandemic was, and we were actually closed for business. We were open as far as answering the phones and that kind of stuff, but because of the pandemic regulations, we couldn't have people inside the office. It was very strict in that county. The other county that my other agency in was like wide open. There was no mask regulations in the county. Business was as usual. And so it was a very odd during that time. But the good thing about it is one of our locations was closed for a year for face-to-face traffic. And so I decided, you know what? I don't know that I actually need two shingles, two office locations, two areas. The office building I was in at my other office location actually emptied out. All the people left with the pandemic, went home, worked from home, and that kind of stuff. And so it opened up an opportunity for me to buy the building here. So my husband and I bought the building, we remodeled it, and at the middle of 2021, we consolidated both of my office locations to one space. And that went off super smooth. There was zero issues with people being upset that we weren't at the other location anymore. And so that spurred into, how can I open myself up to other states? Because one of the things that I noticed was a lot of my clients during that time, especially my high net worth clients, were buying second homes in other states. And they might not be super far away, but they might buy a home in Arkansas. They might buy one in Oklahoma. I had a couple buy homes in Colorado, one in Utah. And I couldn't help them with their second home. And even though I might refer them to one of my friends that was an independent agent, I know one of them, he bought $1 million home in Colorado and he went and insured it with Geico, and didn't really know what kind of coverage he was getting, didn't really understand it. And I thought, I don't have to I can be a small town agency and still work in these other states. And so right now, what I'm trying to do is through my web presence, grow in these surrounding states and other states and really focus on these people that have multiple homes. Like they may have their homestead here in Texas, but they've got another home in Colorado or, Arkansas, Oklahoma, somewhere like that. It's a vacation property so that they can have a complete package and not have any coverage gaps there.
You'd said something that I thought was interesting in that a lot of, I would say, agency owners possibly run their business or make decisions out of fear of what people are going to think or how they're going to react. And like you said, closing down the location, did you let that drive the decision longer than maybe it should? Is that something that you thought would have a negative impact, or have you had that instance in any other areas of the business as well?
So I'm a faith-based person. And so when I bought the other location, I really, told God, I was like, I have a 10-year plan. I don't know what 10 years is going to look like, but this area that the other agency was in, it's pretty much completely built out. Most of the homes in that area are older homes, so they're a little bit harder to insure. I didn't really know, like I said, what the 10-year plan was going to look like. Well, year 10, the pandemic happened. And so I was like, okay. But being closed with that face-to-face interaction for a year, it really did take away all the fear, Joey, because nobody came into the office for a whole year anyway. They did everything over the phone and via email, and they still talked to us. They still were dealing with the people they were familiar with, but they didn't come in. And the area that I'm in now has a lot of retail shopping. There's a lot of really good restaurants, a lot of doctor's offices. So I did reach out to some of my, VIP clients that have been with the agency for a really long time and just kind of get their idea, like how they would feel if I relocated to just, the other office and consolidated. And the overwhelming answer was, oh, I go to the doctor there, or oh, that's where I go get my hair cut, or oh, I love to go eat lunch at this restaurant. And not been any issue.
All right, Erin, I've got 3 more questions for you.
Okay.
And the first one is, what's something you hope you never forget?
It doesn't really have anything to do with insurance, and I wouldn't say it's something that I hope that I never forget, but I think because I hope my kids never forget how much, just care about them and how much they're in my world. And I know the same. I lost my dad 20 years ago. And actually 24 years ago, the same was true for him. So just never forget that sense of family and the importance of relationships.
Now, on the other side of that, what's one thing you still have yet to learn?
Oh my goodness. There's a lot of things that I have left to learn. So my kids are only 3 and 5. So I know that they're going to teach me a lot of lessons in this whole parenting thing. So yeah, I don't know that I'm ready for those. I know that there's still a lot to learn in this insurance space. I said in the very beginning, it changes daily, and I really think that technology is going to be a big differentiator going forward. And so I hope that I'm always open and willing to learn about those kind of things.
All right, Erin, last question to you. If I were to hand you a magic wand of sorts to reshape, change, alter, speed up really any part of insurance, what's that thing? Where is it going and what's it doing?
If I had a magic wand, I think I would use it to educate the public on the importance of insurance and how it's not just about price. That is kind of the biggest headache that I see in my agency, and especially right now with the hard market, is a lot of people are very, very focused on the price and not paying attention to the coverage. And we all know that, coverage is what makes the insurance policy do what it's supposed to. And so I just wish that more people would be understanding of that, and that there would be an easier way to educate them on, why I might have a Safeco quote, my competitor has a Safeco quote, and mine's $300 higher. Well, it's because it has, this, and this. And we do try and do our best to educate people on that. But, it's just that's probably my biggest thing.
Erin, this has been fantastic. I'm going to leave it right there.
All right.